Thank you for listening to BizPod with me, Paul.
And me, Rachel.
Our weekly business English podcast where we talk about the news, social media, and hot topics from a business point of view. You'll get a podcast and links to the articles we discuss. This way you can share your thoughts too. Join us as we discuss what's on our minds this week. So, hi Rachel.
Hello.
We have a special, maybe a different type of BizPod today.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about your books, the books that you're producing. A few weeks ago, some of our listeners might remember that you mentioned creating a book all about question forms.
Yes.
And you have created it, and today you're going to reveal it to us on the podcast.
Well, it's actually book number 6 of what I call the Flag series of books.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about all of them, but let's start with question forms and words. What is this book all about?
Well, it's a learning and a practice notebook. Every book in this series is about learning something and then practicing it. And it's a goal for you to move towards fluency. There are certain areas of the English language that students find really, really difficult, whether it's normal English, business English, or even, just travel English. But questions, students get asked a lot of questions and then they struggle to actually ask them themselves. I don't think in lessons, students really get the opportunity to practice asking questions. And there's different ways that you can form questions in English. Yeah. So this book is all about the different questions, why they're important, the forms, what they look like. There's looking at opened or closed questions.
Yeah.
There's specific question words. There's question tags, positives and negatives. And then obviously there's different tenses. You want to practice different questions in different tenses.
Yeah. So I suppose you're right. When it comes to sort of asking questions, for us natives, it's easy to use all of these different question forms, but teaching them, and if you're learning English, it might be difficult to learn them and actually use them all. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, because think of the dialogue between a teacher and a student. Usually it's the teacher asking the student question. It's not usually the student asking the teacher a question, but when that student goes out in the world, they need to ask questions as well as answer them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember particularly speaking to one of my students recently who works in a sort of sales role. And in sales, it's all really about asking questions.
Exactly. Yeah. Because especially open questions, if you ask open questions, the response is information. And that information gives you power to manipulate the conversation in the direction you want it to go in.
Okay. And that's what your book's all about.
Well, part of it, it's about questions. It explains all the different types of questions, goes through all the tenses, and even gives you a lovely little formula called QASM that helps people form questions very, very quickly.
So QASM, QWASM. Okay. Yeah. That was new to me, I must admit, when I looked at your book. That was new to me.
But I mean, also in the book, there's a form. Every page has a form that you can fill out. And I've given a couple of pages already pre-completed with examples.
Some good examples of people practicing creating their own questions.
Yeah, exactly. And then the rest of the book is for students to fill them out, because obviously different students might want to ask questions about different things. Okay. So it's for them to decide.
Okay, brilliant. The other thing that I think you might get asked a lot about as well is phrasal verbs.
Oh, yes.
Learning phrasal verbs. Now, you have quite an interesting idea or interesting technique for teaching phrasal verbs. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, well, of course, there's another book.
Of course there is.
Phrasal verbs are really difficult because there's more than 10,000 in the English language. I don't know them all. You don't know them all, and we're native speakers. And students need to decide how they're going to memorize them. They're really difficult.
Okay.
And my suggestion is you choose either to learn them by topic, so collect all the phrasal verbs together, for example, that are related to sport or business.
Okay.
You can either group them together by verb, so I suggest primarily the verb get.
Yeah.
That's the most useful one.
Okay. But you could have like every phrasal verb that uses the verb think.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any verb you like.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for example, the get one, you have get out, get up, get on with, get over. There's many. And the third one is preposition.
Okay.
You know, choose a preposition like on. You have go on, put on, switch on, turn on.
Work on something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But students can choose themselves which is the most useful. And they don't have to stick to the same method every time.
Okay.
But it's a great way to group them, and then they sort of get grouped in your head by this visual representation.
Okay. Yeah. So this phrasal verb sort of notebook that you've created is really a visual guide, isn't it?
Yes.
To help people visualize phrasal verbs. I like that one very much.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the next book that we're going to talk about is your modals and conditionals.
Yeah, that's my favourite one. I
Okay.
love modal verbs and conditionals.
Okay. Why? Why is it your favourite? Why do you love them?
Because it's all about aspirations, what's possible, possibility,
Okay.
opportunity. You know, if I win the lottery, I'll buy a Ferrari. It's all about, what might happen.
Okay.
But anyway, this isn't a book. Again, there's a great formula at the beginning, the percentage rule for how to remember which modal to use, which is very visual.
Yeah.
There is a rule guide for conditionals and a little bit about modal madness, so you can understand what to use when.
Okay. Because again, I think modals can be a little bit confusing for a lot of our students. And particularly when you're learning conditions, if you learn a conditional sentence, the traditional conditional sentence would have would, and that's it. That's all you would learn in your traditional grammar books.
Yes.
But the fact is, conditions can choose. With a condition, you can choose almost any modal verb.
Yep. And with each one, I go through each modal, giving a full page of different examples. Like polite requests, offers, future in the past, expressions of preference, habits or tendencies. And then there's a whole page for the students to fill in any relevant examples that are good for them and what they need to know.
Yeah.
So the whole book is full of lots and lots of examples, but also opportunities to make it their own, to personalise it.
Okay, that's great. That's great. All of these books that we're talking about, by the way, they're all available on Amazon. Is that right?
Yep. Or they can go to the website. I've got a books website called Boyce Books, BoyceBooks, Boyce Books, all one word, boycebooks.com. Go there, all the information about the books and all the Amazon links are there if you want to get there quickly. Or just go on Amazon and search under Rachel Boyce and you'll find all my books.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, let's talk about your verb conjugation book.
Aha! Now, this is a big book, isn't it? Now, when we were learning Italian, we had a book, what was it, 501 verb conjugations?
Yeah, 501 Italian verbs, and each verb is conjugated into all the different tenses, about 16, 17 Italian tenses.
Yeah. Now, obviously, English tenses, we don't have quite so many, and you can actually spread them out across 2 pages on this book. So you could look at one verb, open it up, and see all the different tenses.
Yeah.
But the goal of this is, you don't need all those 501 verbs that were in our book. There's just certain ones that you're going to find useful.
Yeah.
So why have a book that you're constantly flicking past verbs you don't want to know?
When you can create your own list of the verbs that you do use on a regular basis, and you can practice conjugating them into all the different tenses that you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
And again, there's examples in there of all the different tenses, the signal words, the form and structure. And then I've got a couple of pages filled out with a particular verb, with the meaning and all the tenses laid out, and then some additional notes and practice so you can see how you can complete the book.
Yeah. So that's a great book for anybody who wants to practice their different tenses, but also to learn different verbs.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Now the next one, which is one of my favourites, is your vocabulary builder book.
It is. Well, you worked on this one with me, didn't you?
Yeah, that's probably why it's one of my favourites, because I contributed to the success of this book?
Well, obviously, in vocabulary, there are lots of different parts of speech. So there's nouns, there's pronouns, there's verbs, there's adjectives, adverbs, prepositions. These are all different parts of the language. And this book basically explains them all and gives you tools for how to amplify your vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
and I think that is a great idea. So amplifying people's vocabulary. This is what I'm always telling my students. I'm always saying you don't need to learn thousands of new words. You need to expand on the words that you have. You need to take a single word that you're already familiar with and amplify it.
Exactly. It gives you opportunities to say things in a different way. So you're not repetitive. And this will give you, again, a formula. And again, there are examples. So you would take, for example, the verb manage. Mm-hmm. You would find the nouns, manager, management, the adjectives, manageable, managerial, adverbs, phrasal verbs, collocations, idioms, synonyms and antonyms, prefixes and suffixes. You get a whole page of the variations and turn that one word into about
20 or 30.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you can go on and add your own notes as well if you want to turn them into sentences or expressions.
Perfect. So now we come to your final book.
Yeah.
The final book in the series, not your final book,
no.
but the final book in your Flag series.
Yeah, they're called Flag because obviously they've got the Union Jack on the front.
Which is a book specifically for people preparing for an English-speaking exam.
Yeah.
Tell us all about this one.
Yeah, now this is perfect for IELTS, but also extremely useful for the Cambridge exams. And it basically helps you get together all your ideas for the speaking exam, such as key themes, important vocabulary again, useful phrases and expressions, extension ideas, any key stories you want to tell, so that when you go in there and the examiner asks you, can you tell me about a souvenir you got from a trip? You can go, yeah, I remember that holiday I went, because you've already prepared it. You've already sort of collected all the useful information together in your head from this book.
Okay.
It doesn't mean prepare a pre-memorized answer. No, because you're not supposed to do that. But it does help you sit down and sort of collect your ideas, your useful information together.
Yeah, collect your ideas, write your ideas down. And you can sort of group those ideas into stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've even included at the front of the book a whole list of suggested topics that are usually part of these speaking exams.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are more.
Yeah, but you've got a whole list of sort of, common topics for speaking exams.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are your 6 Flag books. Mm-hmm. Tell me, why did you create them?
Well, a lot of them were because students couldn't find the resources they needed. And I was forever suggesting my idea, for example, about the phrasal verbs to students. I was saying you've got to learn them in these ways, but I was repeating myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very well giving people an idea on how to learn them. But if they have a book and they can see it in front of them, the formula is there for them.
Yeah.
They've just got to fill it in. It helps them.
Yeah.
So basically, it was because I couldn't find the materials out there that I was telling students they needed in order to move towards fluency.
Okay. Perfect.
What do you like about them?
Well, apart from the fact that you created them, with a little bit of my help on one of them at least, yeah, I just think they're great resources. They're different. They're not the kinds of language learning books that are traditionally found out there. They're different.
Yeah, they're very much focused on students making them personal to them.
Yeah.
Because if you give somebody a textbook, that's meant for everybody. Whereas if they've got a learning and practice book, so they learn about it and then they practice it, the practice will be personal to their English needs.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Now, all 6 of these books are available for people to purchase on Amazon. Now, surprisingly, you're not exactly asking lots of money for them. I'm curious about that. Why are they so cheap?
Because I want to make them affordable.
Okay. Perhaps that was the wrong word. Why are they so cheap? That sounded terrible. They're a bargain, Rachel.
Yeah,
aren't they?
I think the cheapest one is €5.99 and the most expensive, I think, is €8.99.
Yeah.
I think the average is about €6.99 because obviously it depends on the size and the number of pages.
Yeah.
Because I had to cover printing costs and all the rest and the
Yeah,
paper and delivery.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, realistically, you're not asking for hundreds of euros from someone. This is like, a few euros, yeah, to help that one our students, our listeners, can invest in a book that's really, really going to help them improve how they learn the language.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, what's next on your sort of list of creating in terms of books and for students?
Well, for students, I'm at a bit of a pause point at the moment. I'm actually focusing on the teachers, the trainers and the coaches at the moment. I'm trying to write a sort of truths and warts story about what it takes to become an online teacher, trainer or coach as a freelancer.
Wow.
So it's something a little bit for the other side.
Okay.
But
I can't wait.
no doubt return to the students soon.
Yeah, brilliant. I can't wait for that one.
Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, go to Amazon straight away. There are links to all of your books somewhere under, around, or near where you're listening to this podcast. And as Rachel mentioned, they're not expensive. They're a bargain.
Okay. All right. And I hope they help you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We hope you liked our podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with us. Until next time, goodbye.